Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. Well, Halloween may be over, but I've certainly got a lot more treats I want to share with everybody. Before I jump in, go ahead and leave the video a like as it boosts visibility and brings more traffic to the channel and kind of helps me out. And I also recommend, if you haven't seen part 1 to the haul video, to go check that out, and I will leave a link to that in the description below. But let's get started. So first up, we have Welcome Back to the Night by Elizabeth Massey. Now, this has a really interesting cover for something that was printed in almost the year 2000. It was printed in November 1999, so, I'm really kind of surprised to see how simple yet effective it is. Like, I really like how embossed it is. You can feel the little barbs here on the wire and everything, so definitely pretty cool. Let's see. Next up, I actually found in a little free library, which is pretty rare. I usually don't find horror within those, but I always stop and check. You never know what you can find in. But this is called Don't Look in the Mirror by Larry Weinberg. And this is definitely seems like a Goosebumps-esque era kind of horror book for kids. I believe it was 1998 this was published. Yep, 1998. So, right around that time. Next up is John D. MacDonald's Cape Fear, and I picked this up from that big book sale that I had. Well, not that I had, that I attended, excuse me. Seems pretty interesting. Let's see. Next from the book sale was Attack from Atlantis by Lester Del Rey. Pretty interesting cover, honestly. Like, I always really like these kind of covers where it has this huge font of the title and sort of a little bit of a picture to give an idea what's going on. It kind of gives that kind of 70s, 80s movie theater poster kind of feel to it, where the action was more in the size of the font than it was the picture on the front of it. But yeah, seems pretty cool. Definitely a really funky cover, and yeah, just wanted to see what it was about, I guess. Let's see. Next up from the book sale is The Lucifer Mask by Kathleen Rich. Very nice, old school. Looks like a Gothic romance, possibly. Maybe just Gothic in general. Yeah. Definitely, yes, within the Gothic genre, yes. Okay. So within Gothic. Not Gothic romance, but Gothic itself. Let's see. Next up is Different Seasons by Stephen King. And I've actually read this book. Very good book. I loved Apt Pupil. What else is in here? Shawshank Redemption was great, of course. Let's see. The Body, classic, and The Breathing Method, which I remember was good, but I don't really even remember what the story was about, so, kind of an oxymoron, I guess. I do remember not hating it, so. Let's see. I feel like... Did I show these off yet? I feel like I did already. I could be wrong, though. Maybe I didn't. Anyway. Let's see. Next up is The White Dragon by Anne McCaffrey. Yeah, Anne McCaffrey is kind of like a nostalgia author for me. I've only ever read one of her books, but I loved it. It really stuck with me as a teenager, so I always pick up her stuff when I see it. Let's see. Next up is The Glow by Brooks Stanwood. Very cool cover. Always love that little mirror effect, and just that splotch right there is really cool. Kind of reminds me of the first signet printing of The Shining. But this I picked up from Brian's Instagram bookshop. I can't believe I can't remember the name of it, but I will be sure to link his shop in the description again. Just in case you want to go check out some really great books for really good prices. Let's see. Next up, I picked up Resident Evil by Caleb Cove. Resident Evil Caliban Cove by S.D. Perry. Now, I like the Resident Evil series. I didn't grow up playing it. I actually watched my cousin play this a lot. Like, this is his favorite video game series, and I remember it was the first time a video game actually absolutely terrified me. That first scene with the zombie reveal gave me nightmares that night and for like a month after. So, like, I guess that kind of turned me away from playing them, but becoming obsessed with watching my cousin play them. So, and these are pretty rare, actually, now, you know, what with Resident Evil 7 bringing back the popularity of the franchise, kind of breathing new life into it, and Village being a huge hit as well. And, of course, RE4 Remake, but, yeah, definitely pretty happy to have found one of these for a decent price. Which was, I don't know, actually, I don't even remember where I got this from. Next up is Taliesin by Stephen R. Lawhead. And I got this from a free library as well. I don't know, just kind of picked it up. Anyway, next I got from the used bookstore I usually frequent, and that is The Door to December by Richard Page. Next up is Master of the Five Magics by Lyndon Hardy. This just seems like a very awesome, like, fantasy cover. Really love the detail on the, I'm gonna assume that's a djinn? That's what I would go with anyway, or perhaps that's what genies were actually portrayed as back when they were first, I guess, kind of detailed. Which, coming to think, I can't really recall any horror books that involve genies. Leave a comment down below if you guys know of any. I'd love to check that out. That's actually a really good concept. Yeah. Let's see. Next up, I picked up Offspring by Jack Ketchum. I'm pretty sure I got this on a marketplace posting because it was only $1. So, yeah, but it's in really good condition. And I have heard, unfortunately, it's not as good as the prequel Off-Season, which, for the most part, you know, is kind of typical within any media. But I'll still check it out. Let's see. Next up is Phoenix Fire by Elizabeth Forrest. Definitely seems like a pretty cool cover. Yeah, see, even the back's kind of cool. It kind of wraps around here. So, yeah, seemed pretty cool. Next up, I got off of Marketplace. Posting is The Orchard by Charles L. Grant, which I already own a copy of, but again, for $1, you can't beat it. Let's see. Next up is Star Wars Labyrinth of Evil by James Luceno. I am not a Star Wars fan at all. I will be the first to admit I never got into the series. I have watched a couple movies and they just didn't interest me. I've never been like a major fan of space concepts and things like that, so this is just something that never stuck with me. Yeah, but I'll always pick up any books I see about it because they seem, some of them seem to be pretty rare and go for a bit, so figured why not add it to the collection. Let's see, next up I picked up Nomads by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, which I got from the used bookstore I go to for $2. Seems like a cool concept. Really enjoy the cover. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of Stephen King's The Body. Almost kind of reminds me of the Warriors movie poster as well. But, yeah, I honestly had no idea Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough had such a huge bibliography. Like, it's only been recently, like maybe within the past 2 or 3 years, ever since I got the first book that I had by her, God Forsaken, that I noticed that she actually has written quite a lot of books. Like in one of my other videos, I picked up Hotel Transylvania by her, which I had no idea was even a book. But yeah, I really have to get into her work. I need to check out some of her work. Let's see. Next up, we have Shadow of a Past Love by Willow Davis Roberts. Again, very retro. Again, I want to say... Let me see. I'm going to get it wrong. I want to say very early 70s. Ah, I was right. 1970. Cool. Wow, right on the money. But, yeah. Pretty cool. Let's see. Ooh. Next, we have the Vlad tapes by Fred Saberhagen. So yeah, I got this from the used bookstore that I go to, and kind of a goofy cover for sure, but, you know, I always pick up Saberhagen's work. Mainly just because I like saying his last name, Saberhagen. It's just, I don't know, that's a pretty sweet last name. But yeah, definitely pretty cool. He writes a lot of vampire stuff, I noticed as well. This one I picked up from the used bookstore as well, and this seemed interesting. And it's called Terrarium by Scott Russell Sanders. And I love that cover. I think that's a really beautiful cover. And I always love concepts like this where it's like not so much apocalyptic, but more in isolation of society, like kind of like Lord of the Flies or, excuse me, like Fantastic Land by Mike Bockoven, where it's, you know, society is still going on around people who are stuck in sort of this almost vacuum of space and time where they kind of have to make up their own rules now, and like you really get to see what people are made of. So I think you get like the really awesome concept of apocalypse without, you know, kind of throwing into that massive pool of the genre. So I definitely will check this out. All right, next up we have Tales for the Midnight Hour, Stories of Horror by J.B. Stamper. Nice little kids' horror book. Nice cover, pretty cool. It's got a lot of stories in it, 17 stories, which is actually pretty big for something like this. Let's see what kind of stories are in here. We have... Oh, geez. Looks like Bentley Little might have wrote this. The Furry Collar, The Black Velvet Ribbon, The Border, The 10 Claws, The Jigsaw Puzzle, The Face, The Mirror, The Egyptian Coffin, The Old Plant Station, Phobia, The Train Through Transylvania, The Attic Door, The Tunnel of Terror, The Fortune Teller, The Stuffed Dog, A Free Place to Sleep, and The Goonie Birds. Yeah. If you don't get the joke, do a quick Google search on Bentley Little and look up his bibliography. You'll get it right away. Let's see. Next up is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, a novel by Rob McGregor. Again, Indiana Jones was never something I ended up getting into as a kid. I don't know. I was never big on, like, adventure stuff. You know, I was always definitely more into, like, the grungy, darker 90s aesthetic things, like, you know, the Ninja Turtles movie and The Crow and stuff like that. Like, yeah, how original, but yeah, that's just what I liked. Let's see. Next up is Super Scary Stories for Sleepovers by Q.L. Pierce. Pretty awesome cover for sure. Like, you don't really see a lot of mummies on covers, to be honest. So that's definitely kind of nice to see once in a while. Let's see, what do we have? says they have some illustrations, so see if there's any. Oh, that's creepy. That's definitely pretty awesome, actually. Let's see, I'll find one more and then we'll move on. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a big one for me right there. I am terrified of water and things that live in it. Alrighty, next up we have, that I got at the book sale, is Boris Karloff presents More Tales of the Frightened. And that's just an awesome cover. And, you know, it's Boris Karloff. Of course you're going to pick it up. I was really excited to find this. When was this even printed? 1975. But, yeah, it was definitely pretty awesome to find this. I was excited. So, the next book I got because I had just read the prequel, just maybe 2 weeks ago even, and I loved it. Totally loved it. So, be prepared for a review of that coming out. But, as soon as I finished it, I had to get part 2. Unfortunately, they're not connected together, which is a bit of a bummer, but I'll save that part for the review. But the book is Class Trip 2 by Bebe Foss Rice. And not only just a really beautiful cover, very vibrant, like great color scheme. And this is like an unread copy. The spine is like almost, it looks brand new, honestly. I don't see a single bend in this spine. It's kind of hard to tell with it in the bag, but I'm also not taking it out until I'm ready to read it. But very excited to add this to the collection. Let's see. Next we have, come here, The Great Houdini by Beryl Williams and Samuel Epstein. Which was definitely an interesting looking book for sure. When I was a kid, I was really into magic. Like, there used to be this TV commercial that would have like your starter magic kit. And I remember begging my mom to get it for me until she finally did it. My mom didn't like putting her credit card information over the phone, or, you know, especially when like eBay came around. Oh my God, I didn't get anything from eBay until I was probably 16 because my mom was not putting her information on the internet. But anyway, I loved magic as a kid. I used to watch that Magic Reveal show with the Masked Magician and everything. I loved Chris Angel and David Blaine and all that. I wanted to be a magician so bad. But, yeah, definitely pretty cool to pick this up. Let's see here. Next up is In Search of Dracula, A True History of Dracula and Vampire Legends by Raymond T. McNally and Radu Florescu. This is actually kind of starting to become a more uncommon book, which, thankfully, this is probably my second copy I have now, maybe third, but I always pick it up when I see it, because I've noticed it's starting to kind of rise a bit in price, so always good to have extra copies for trade bait. Next I got from the big book sale is Moon of the Wolf by Leslie H. Whitten. And this is a beautiful cover. And I've been seeing actually multiple editions of this pop up recently in some of my book groups. And all of the covers are fantastic. Like I hate to say, like, I love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. But I think this is probably, like, at the bottom of the list from the other covers that I've seen, which says a lot. Which really says a lot. Because this cover is gorgeous. And I don't have too many werewolf books, so I'm pretty excited to add more of those. Let's see. Next up, we have the new Clarissa Ross Gothic novel, The Haunting of Villa Gabriel. Next is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. Probably butchered that, so I apologize. I'm familiar with the name. I've heard it a lot of times, but I don't think I'm very familiar with the concept of the story. Like, I don't know any of the characters, what it's even about. So, I picked it up when I saw it because I kind of want to change that. Because I hear it talked about a lot, but just never know what it was about. Next up is The Complete Poetry of Edgar Allan Poe. Pretty self-explanatory. I love Poe. I always pick up any book I see by him. Next up, we have The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Puzo, however you would like to pronounce that. So, confession time. I have never seen the Godfather film. I know. The Mafia's just never been something I've been interested in, though, you know? I don't think I've seen Scarface. I've never seen The Godfather. I haven't watched The Sopranos. I don't know. It's just never been something I've been super interested in. I don't really know why. But who knows? Maybe I'll check this out and see how it is. Maybe it'll change my mind. Let's see. Next up, we have Captain Cutthroat by John Dixon Carr. Pretty awesome cover. Let's see. Next we have Misery by Stephen King. This is my absolute favorite Stephen King book. I remember, and I don't think I don't have this cover, I don't believe. But I remember when I worked at a call center for Bed Bath & Beyond. Thank God I don't do that job anymore. It was awful. But I used to read all the time because I would do the live chat session where it was basically just giving people coupons and waiting for them to place their order to add the discount, blah, 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 blah. But I would read all the time, and I remember reading this at my desk, and there were parts where I was like physically jumping in my seat going like, go, go, go. And it was the first time a book really gave me that like heart racing feeling. Like, it's, you know, it definitely, like, it's so good. It's absolutely one of King's best. And the nice thing is you can kind of skip those. At least I did for the most part. Was those the book within a book parts that Paul's writing and everything. So, but definitely pretty cool. One of my favorites. Speaking of King, I got The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger Illustrated Edition. Or, well, yeah, it does have some illustrations, but, yeah, it's pretty water damaged, but, you know, it was $1, so what the heck. Ooh, these I'm going to save for near the end. Not yet for those. Okay. Next up, we have Abarat, Days of Magic, Knights of War by Clive Barker. Now, I don't know if this is like sort of maybe a sequel or a different edition of Abarat, because I feel like I've seen the same book with the blue cover on it, so I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive. I feel like I have one. I know I have a copy of it somewhere, but it just seems like it is to me. But again, I've never read any of Barker's work, so I genuinely don't know. Let's see. Next up, we have The World of Lore, Monstrous Creatures by Aaron Monk. Seems pretty cool. I love the cover. You know, red and black's always classic. So, yeah, definitely seems pretty interesting. Let's see. Next is The Renegades of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. Get a little bit closer here. There we go. Next up is 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King. Looks to be like an ex-library copy, actually. Let's see. Yeah, I can already tell right off the bat. I don't know if it has a checkout card. Okay. All right, next is The Girl Who Heard Dragons by Anne McCaffrey. Great cover. I'm always a sucker for a good dragon cover. Let's see. Next is The Dark Half by Stephen King. Which I think I got halfway through, and then I started, what did I start? There's another book I started, and it completely spoiled the ending to this. I was really upset. It was by King. I can't remember what the next book after Dark Half was. I want to say it was Rose Matter. I could be completely wrong. I really don't know. But yeah, totally killed the ending of it. I was like, oh, man. So I never got around back to finishing it. So anyway, next up is Out of the Night by Patrick Whalen. Very awesome cover. This one I know is in Paperbacks from Hell, because this is definitely a standout cover. And I was really happy to have found it at the big book sale for $1. Let's see. Next is The House on the Borderland by W.H. Hodgson. With probably one of the best covers ever, honestly. Picture of big ol' ear of corn. With the stalk being oddly shaped as a hand. But I actually bought a different cover of this book probably last year in a book bundle with, I think it was A Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. So I was pretty psyched to find this at the book sale too. I was like, oh, huh. Which, had I not owned the other copy, I don't know if I even have picked this up. I mean, honestly, I probably would have just because of the H.P. Lovecraft thing right there, so. Let's see. Next up, we have Night of the Toy Dragons. And this is by Barney Cohen. So, this was definitely like a, what is this kind of buy? I saw this at the book sale. Title, cover, both fantastic. Concept sounds awesome. Unfortunately, the reviews are not glowing, and I have heard from some fellow booktubers that it's not the best. Which is a wicked shame, because it just sounds so awesome. The concept sounds great. It's short. I'll read it really quick. A summer night in New York City. Kids playing, lovers strolling. Just another summer night in New York. And all the while, under the hot city streets they gathered, the tiny machines of destruction, moved by primordial instincts as old as time itself. Slowly, relentlessly, they began their blind slithering ascent toward the teeming world above them, a world that was soon to know a nightmare of bloody carnage and undreamed of horror. So you would think something like that would be awesome, but I heard a lot of people say that the monsters don't even show up till after the first 100 pages of the book, which is crazy because the book, I don't even think is 200 pages. Well, it is. Yeah, the book is only 218 pages, so having to get through almost half of it for anything to happen is kind of oof. But we'll see. We'll see. I always like to form my own opinion, but sometimes it's hard to go against the unanimous kind of glowing statements being made, I guess. Next up is The Witching by Chet Hagen. Great, great, great cover. Nice and embossed. Yeah, definitely a sweet cover. Really like that. Let's see. This one I found at the book sale. So if you've seen any of my community posts, you probably already know this one. But this was one that, I froze in my tracks because I was like, oh my god, am I seeing what I'm seeing right now? And sure enough, it was. So it was the first day I went to the book sale, and I was like, okay, I have to come back the next day to see if there's more of these, because There's bound to be more. There has to be. Unfortunately, there wasn't, but I won't complain. I'd never thought I'd find any of them ever. So to have not have paid the usual $60, $70 price tag per book these carry, I'm pretty excited. Excuse me. Forgot to bring a drink and my throat's getting dry. But that book is the Blackwater series by Michael McDowell, and this is book 3, The House. Here we go. I was over the moon to find this. Like, for those unfamiliar, the Blackwater Saga is a 6-book series written by Michael McDowell in, let me see, I believe it was the 70s? 80s, excuse me. So in the early 80s, and is highly regarded as one of, if not the best example of Southern Gothic horror ever written. And I've read The Elementals by Michael McDowell, which is a fantastic Southern Gothic tale, so I wouldn't doubt that this is even better. And I really hope to one day have the whole series together so I can read it. But yeah, this is kind of like one of those white whales for horror collectors out there, and I'm really, really, really excited to have finally added this to the collection. So pretty psyched about that. Let's see. Next up is Weave World by Clive Barker. Which, a little bit of tear on the step back on the cover here, which is fine. I already own, like, probably 2 copies of this anyway. I feel like this would be something you would see in a 90s Pog commercial. Or like a board game. Next up, we have Artifact by Gregory Benford. Oops. Pretty interesting cover. Like, I'm not really even sure what it's supposed to imply. I can't even tell if this is like... Well, it says it's suspense, so... But it was placed in the sci-fi section, so... I don't know. I'm pretty interested about this one. I'll have to do some more digging on that. Next up, we have The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. Which, again, I've never read anything by Ray Bradbury, but is currently being changed. I am reading something by him right now, but what that is will be a secret for now. Next up was also another really awesome find, and that is Bloodright by Peter Tremaine. Gorgeous cover. Really, really, really beautiful cover art that wraps right around on the spine to the back. Really beautiful. Which is par for Tremaine's work, honestly. I've never read anything by him, but all of his covers are like genuine works of art, honestly. So I was really excited to have found this for $1. Next up is Battle of the Planet of the Apes by David Gerald. Again, something I've never seen. But lately I've been kind of more interested, to be honest. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. So the more I look at it, the more I really want to like get the first book and just kind of see what the series is about. It seems really interesting. I know it's got a pretty good fan base, so and I think the concept is genius, you know? I really do. And I don't know why I've never really given it a chance, but that may have just been younger me kind of being like, oh, well, that's boring monkey stuff and blah, blah, blah. So, but now that I understand more of what the concept is about, I definitely want to check that out. Next up is Interview with a Vampire by No, I'm kidding. If you've seen part 1, then yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. It is Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice, though. It's not a 4th copy of Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. Alrighty, next up we have I Sing the Body Electric by Ray Bradbury. Definitely a unique cover. Definitely trippy. Let's see. Next up, I have The Flame Upon the Ice by William R. Forstchen, which is the second book in the Fire on the Ice series. Which, again, for those who are not aware, William R. Forstchen wrote a really wonderful series called 1 Second After, where the United States is hit by an electric magnetic pulse and basically knocks the power grid off and chaos ensues. So I was pretty interested to see that he kind of, dipped his toes into the fantasy realm. So I'm happy to have all 3 books in the series now. So I'll definitely check that out. Alrighty, next up is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And it's a first print. I believe it's the first print, the one that doesn't have the title on the front. And it has the drop of blood. I feel like the second printings do not have it. Yeah, first signet printing, right there. So yes, this is a first print. Which, hey, for $1 is a complete steal. And I think this is in genuine better condition than the other one I have. I think I'm sitting right behind it now, actually. Oh, I have 2 copies. Aha. Yep, that is not first print. That's not a first print. Oh, so this may actually be my very first print. Cool. Even better. That's awesome. Hey, I'm psyched. I didn't know that. I thought I already had a first print of that. So, hey, for $1, steal. Let's see. Next is The Ballad of Beta Z by Samuel R. Delany. Oh, now that I'm actually kind of looking at this, it seems to be a double book. Alpha Yes, Terra No by Emil Pataha. Wow, that's pretty interesting. It is a double book. Wow, I've never seen that before. Turn this book over for a second complete novel. Wow, what? Printed in 1965. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, see, it's got the print here. And then when you go further in, it's all upside down. Wow, that's really cool. Pretty interesting. See, you never know what you're going to get. Took a random shot in the dark and ended up with something really cool. Next up is Falcon Ridge by Edwin Marlowe. Seems to be another Gothic classic tale here. For some reason, it kind of gives me like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vibe. Definitely feels like that Frankenstein-esque era, for sure. Speaking of William R. Forstchen, well, a couple books back, next up is A Darkness Upon the Ice, which is the first book in the series. Yep, found these at the book sale for $1, so pretty happy to add those in. Next up is The Tale of the Body Thief by Anne Rice. Let's check out that step back art there. Pretty nice. Not really what I would expect, but let's see. Next up is The Green Brain by Frank Herbert. Pretty weird cover for sure. Seems like this would be like a anti-drug ad in the 60s. Let's see. Next we have Savage Ransom by David Lippincott. And I really love that cover. Again, something simple, but very effective. And I really love the photorealism style of it. Definitely kind of gives me like an inkling of Seven, the movie. So definitely a really nice cover. Next, I grabbed 2 copies of Grab Bag by Charlotte MacLeod. One I found at a thrift store, one I found at the book sale. Get a little bit better peek at it here. Okay. Next up is The Fates by Thomas Tessier. And I found this at the book sale. And I know I've been saying a lot of the books I found at the book sale were $1. They were actually 11 cents. So, excuse me. So this I found for 11 cents. Because I ended up picking up a total of 133 books at the book sale. And I spent $15 total. So that ended up coming out to about 11 cents a book. So next up is The Orphan by Robert Stallman. Really awesome cover. Yeah, it looks like that's supposed to be a werewolf, apparently. I mean, I'm not one to argue. Let's see. Next we have this is a tough one to say. The Demoniacs by John Dixon Carr. Demoniacs? I have no idea. Next up, we have Mr. Fred Saberhagen with The Holmes Dracula File. And look at that. That is freaking gorgeous. Get a little bit closer here. There we go. Man, that is some stunning, stunning art. Like, that has got to be one of my favorite depictions of a vampire. I assume it's Dracula, but I mean, obviously it is. It's the Holmes Dracula File. Of course it's Dracula, but I think that's probably one of the best depictions of Dracula I've ever seen. When was this published, actually? 1978. Definitely looks like Dracula's final form in Castlevania. I think that's why I really like it, because I love the Castlevania series. Alright, Nintendo, don't copyright me. Anyway, next up is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. Interesting cover, definitely an earlier edition. I don't recall what year this was. I want to say it was the 65. Oh, look at that, 1965. Man, I'm getting good at this. Let's see. Next up is Battle Circle by Piers Anthony. And it seems to be a collection of a series, it seems. But again, I don't think I've read anything by Piers Anthony. But I hear his name a lot when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi. So I usually pick up his stuff when I see it. Let's see. Next we have Sword of Horse Clans by Robert Adams. This is book number 2. So before I look at it, I want to say this is a Frank Frazetta cover. So apologies to all the heavy Frazetta fans. Please don't crucify me if I'm wrong, but I'm just trying to get better at my guessing here and trying to recognize things. Let's see. Does it say who painted the picture? Copyright. Published. The author. No. Strange. It doesn't say who the cover artist is, and they usually do when it's earlier titles like this. 1976. So Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't say who the artist is, but I would put my money on Frank Frazetta. Again, if I'm wrong, please don't come for me. It was a random guess. Unless we could see. I know one time I found the the cover artist's name. Ah, there it is. It's signed at the very bottom. So I don't believe it's Frank Frazetta. As a matter of fact, it's CW something. Here, I'll see. Maybe you guys can see it right there. I'll try to get it as close as I can. It looks like CW something. Right at the bottom there. So, I was wrong, but yeah, if you guys know, let me know, because it is Frazetta-esque, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Next up, we have Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Which I liked. I definitely liked. I think there's really good, messages of grief and parenting and things like that. So I know it's not a lot of people's. It's divided. It's divided. But what I really liked is the inscription inside of it. It says, Barb Shell, May 30th, 1987, to replace book lost in flood of 84. And I plan on making a video about my favorite inscriptions in books that I found, because I think that really adds a really good level of character to books. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one thing I really love about them, is these things travel all over the world. You know, we could be holding books that have been held by people, in China, in Russia, in anywhere all over the world, and it could end up right here, And it's like people are so quick to kind of just, be one and done with books and get rid of them. Not like, people keep movies and video games and everything else, and, I don't know. I just really like inscriptions like that, so. Anyway, next up is The Serpent's Circle by Patrick Harper. Gorgeous cover. Really beautiful. I love the color scheme. This one I also picked up from Brian's Instagram bookshop. Again, I will be sure to tag his shop in the description below. And absolutely, at the very least, go give him a follow. He deserves it. Absolutely worth every penny I spend there. All right, next up we have Anne McCaffrey's Morita, Dragon Lady of Pern. I wonder how many books are actually in the Pern series. Yeah, if anybody knows, feel free to comment below and let me know. Okay. Next up is The Cutting Edge by Lisbeth Chance. Great cover. Beautiful cover. Again, very nice photorealism. Definitely reminds me of like an 80s slasher. Let me see. I guarantee this was published in the 80s. There's no way it wasn't. $1986. Yep, I was right. There we go. Cool. But yeah, love it. Nice and embossed. Like, a lot of detail on the embossment as well. Like, the veins here are embossed and everything. And even, like, the tiles on the house. Like, pretty nice. Pretty nice attention to detail there. Like, usually with embossment, you get a little bit here and there. Like, especially with the title and everything. So that's really nice that they added so much with the veins on the hand and the siding of the house and everything. And I think that was good. I think that was nice. Even this right here, just the little bar across the window here, even that's embossed. So great detail. Great detail. Really makes the cover pop. Next up, we have The $6 Million Man. The Secrets of Bigfoot Pass, by Mike John. I know it's a classic film. I've never seen it. Again, I'm not a huge movie person, so. Let's see. Next up, we have Messages from Michael by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. Which, this is also definitely more on the uncommon, almost to the rare side. So definitely happy to have found that. Next up is Slaughterhouse-5 by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. I've never read anything by him, but I do hear a lot about him, especially from my buddy Corey in the Night Shift Horror group. Hey, Corey, if you're watching. I know he's a big fan of his stuff, so I always pick him up just because, me and Corey have similar tastes, so I'm sure I'm going to like whatever I pick up by him. Let's see. Next up, we have The Blooding by William Darrad. So this seems kind of cool. This looks kind of like a Western almost. Yeah, it's about a prairie town. Definitely seems pretty cool. And it's got a nice little blurb from Blatty, so definitely going to be one worth checking out. Next up is Dre Prescott 27, Mazes of Scorpio. Just a pretty awesome sci-fi cover. It almost kind of reminds me of the cover to Blaster Master for the Nintendo. So, definitely pretty interesting. Next up, we have The Hypnotist by Brad Steiger. Really interesting cover. I always think white and red works really well, especially with a dash of gold. That's always really nice. Just to break it up a little bit, so you don't have so much negative space everywhere. Next up is Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster. And it's a Star Wars novel. Next up, we have Haunted Houses by Richard Weiner and Nancy Osborne. Great cover. Absolutely love the cover. Someone told me this is, I think, the first book in a 3-book series about this. But I definitely want to check this out. I love reading about haunted places and stuff like that. So next we have Violin by Anne Rice. Not much to say about it, to be totally honest. The cover seems kind of goofy, weird title. I don't know. Not much to say, honestly. Next up is Searching for Caleb by Ann Tyler. Interesting cover. Very, very, very interesting cover. And I like the title as well. Okay, next we have Dragonwick by Anya Seton. Interesting cover for sure. This is definitely on the older side. It's got the magenta tipped pages there. That's unique. I don't think I've ever seen like a magenta tipped one. I always see red or blue. Let's see. And what's this? Here we go. So it was originally printed in 1946. This edition is printed in 1970. Oh, nice. Next is Death Before Bedtime by Edgar Box. Cool cover. Alrighty, so Now we're going to start getting into the more obscure stuff that I found for sure. Not much longer, I promise, I promise. But first up is an uncorrected proof of the Toynbee Convector by Ray Bradbury. And I found this at the book sale. Again, only 11 cents for that. So I love uncorrected proofs and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's even got this really nice picture of Bradbury there. Definitely pretty nice. Okay, next we have an uncorrected proof of Sepulture by James Herbert. Pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty cool. Next is the uncorrected proof for Demon Knight by J. Michael Straczynski. Pretty awesome. Never heard of that one. All right. Next up is something I honestly had to go and ask other people what exactly it was, but this is basically kind of like a pitch for an upcoming book. It's not exactly a proof, but more so, well, it's called Tap Tap by David Martin. So this was kind of like a promotional that would be sent to publishers and everything that like kind of gave a breakdown of the book, what sales projected would be, things like that. And I've just never seen anything like this before, so I knew I had to have it. But yeah, it's got author's information, previous books, like how it was printed, if it was paper or cloth, how much they would charge for the book, like where this guy even lives. Like, it's pretty crazy. But yeah. So, last but not least, is certainly the biggest gem of the group, honestly. I was the last day of the sale. I was kind of just about finishing up and was kind of doing a quick round to make sure I hadn't missed anything, when this book kind of caught the corner of my eye. And it was the title at first, and then I noticed the author, and after that the illustrator, and I was like, okay, I definitely need to pick this up now. So when I did, I thought nothing of it, obviously. I was like, I love the illustrator, I love his work, so of course I'll get it for 11 cents. So later on when I got home, and I was kind of just, I like to do research a little bit here and there throughout the day and just be like, oh, I wonder what this is going for. So I happened to look this one up, and the only listings I can find on eBay right now are both going for $400 and $500. Yeah. So needless to say, I was pretty taken aback when I saw that, because I had never heard of this book before. I've never read anything by the author before. So it was just, the book itself was just as much a surprise as, what the asking price is now. But that book is Bleak House by Charles Dickens and illustrated by Edward Gorey. So, like I said, I know nothing about this. I am not a Dickens reader. I've never read anything by him. I mainly picked it up simply because of Edward Gorey. I love his work. I covet a copy of his edition of Dracula one day. It's beautiful. But, yeah, I almost walked away without picking this up. But like I said, I caught it at the last second. And, like, I can't believe what people are trying to get for it now, It's just one of those gems that are really interesting. Here, I'll show a couple of illustrations here. I love Gorey style. Like, it kind of reminds me I mean, obviously he was making work before this person, but when I say that, I usually like obviously, the person later on is inspired by the person previously. But it kind of reminds me a lot of Jonan Vasquez's artwork, the author of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Invader Zim, things like that. It's very hectic. Lots of pen lines, rough edges, hatching, things like that. Lots of darkness. So it feels very chaotic. And I like that. So, yeah, I was really, really, really excited to pick this up and add it to the collection. It was just a really, really nice surprise amongst all the other stuff that I was looking for in general. Well, that's it, everybody. That is officially my Halloween haul for October. So, I believe that was a total of 177 books, and I spent overall, I want to say probably in the $70 to $80 range. Mainly because, online purchases were like $20 and stuff like that. And obviously the bulk of all of that came from that huge book sale. So, but anyway, that's going to be it for me today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Feel free to drop a like below, leave a comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more hauls. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.